Hello guys, Nizzy here. So in today's video, I'll be bringing you a bit of news from Paizo and their upcoming remastered second edition Pathfinder gaming system. Now, Paizo decided to release a remastered edition in response to something that happened earlier this year, wherein uh, WotC decided to revise wanted to revise their open gaming license that they have allowed contributors to use and operate under for the past decade or so, because they felt the D&D brand was under monetized. Now, it wasn't clear if the decision came directly from them or from Hasbro, which owns WotC. But nonetheless, the open gaming license previously allowed creators to use the D20 system, which is another name for the gaming system that Dungeons and Dragons uses. It allowed creators to use that system without restrictions and for free. Of course, dependent on some conditions, but I'm not familiar with them since I'm not a D&D creator. Anyway, so WotC wanted to revise that, and the TLDR of that revision would be less revenue, especially for smaller and medium-sized creators, and there would be a shared ownership of some kind of future creators creations under that gaming license. Now, as you can imagine, especially since the community has been using the open gaming license in its current form for over a decade already, there was a severe backlash against that move, to the point that, and the backlash was so severe and it was so pronounced that it caused WotC to retract the revision. And not only that, it even forced them or persuaded them, quote unquote, air quotes, to give further concessions. However, it was a little bit too late and the damage has been done, and the chain of events were already set in motion. And one of those events was Paizo deciding to make and create their own gaming license, and they call it the ORC license. Now, since they in this new license, they promised an even better version and even more less constrictive conditions than even the original OGN license provided. And of course, since they're gonna be the one who's going to be spearheading this, it would only make sense that their own product would be compatible with this new license, especially since creators who would be using the ORC license would be using their own game system. And for that to go smoothly, it would be best if their own gaming system is wholly owned by them, instead of it borrowing some elements from the D20 system. So that's the story. Now, what's even more funny with this story and with WotC's move is because in the kind of distant past, again, if memory serves, this was about 10 to 15 years ago, there was a time that D&D was struggling. It wasn't as popular as it is today. Role-playing in general was not as mainstream as it was today. There were already many niche groups, but they were niche. Today, there are things like Critical Role, live plays are very popular, especially in platforms like Twitch. But before, it wasn't like that. So, and D&D was struggling to survive. So that precipitated the creation of the open gaming license so that they can incentivize people to keep on using their gaming system and thus enable them to survive. And that's what happened. They not only survived, but they thrived. And funny enough, after them being able to recover, they decided to shoot themselves in the feet and tear out the thing that enabled them to survive in the first place. But anyway, so that's the backstory, and as I said, Paizo released a core preview of one of the first book of the remastered series, which will be replacing the old second edition core rule books. And the first of these core books, the first of these core remastered books, would be coming out in October. And additionally, so let me bring it up in your screens. So the Paizo will be releasing a new source book called The Rage of Elements, which will be the first source book to use the new remastered rules. And from what I understand, this Rage of Elements is kind of a primordial or kind of a borderline cosmic power level source book. So it's kind of significant. And additionally, uh, next week, actually, people were kind of surprised that Paizo suddenly released a preview of their core rulebook, especially one that is 19 pages long, because usually things like this are only released in 2 to 3 page errata like documents. But Paizo decided this, and in addition to that, so people weren't expecting it. But be that as it may, next week Paizo will be holding several plenaries at Gen Con. And for sure they'll be providing more information about the remastered core books that they'll be releasing later this year and next year. And these are the dates. So if you're attending Gen Con in person or online, you should take note of these dates, especially on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So that's the specific plenary for the Pathfinder Remaster preview. So there you go. Thank you guys if you're still here. And as always, see you guys on the next one.